let's slow this down for a moment because Kevin O'Leary often says the biggest financial mistakes don't feel like mistakes when you're making them. They feel reasonable, they feel normal, they feel like what everyone else is doing. And that's exactly why they're so dangerous. The middle class doesn't collapse overnight. It slowly tightens its own boundaries, one decision at a time, until freedom feels like a luxury instead of a right. Think about how early these habits begin. From a young age, most people are taught a very simple formula. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, work hard, buy a house, retire someday. It sounds responsible, it sounds safe. But Kevin O'Leary challenges this idea by asking a question most people never ask. Safe for who? Safe for how long? And at what cost? Here's something uncomfortable to sit with. Many middle-class families earn more today than their parents ever did, yet they feel more anxious, more stretched, and more exhausted. That's not a coincidence. Kevin says when income rises faster than financial discipline, stress always wins. More money doesn't fix broken habits, it exposes them. Let's talk about the emotional side of money, because this is where retention really lives. Money decisions are rarely logical, they're emotional. People don't buy things because of spreadsheets, they buy because of feelings. Pride, fear, comfort, validation. Kevin O'Leary says if you don't control the emotional side of money, no amount of income will save you. Here's a simple scenario that happens every day. Someone gets a raise, they feel proud, they feel seen, they feel like their hard work finally paid off. Instead of asking, how can this raise change my future, they ask, what can I upgrade right now? That one question determines everything that follows. Kevin says wealth is built by people who ask uncomfortable questions early, not by people who avoid them. Now let me ask you something, and don't answer out loud, just think about it. If someone looked at your spending for the last year, would they be able to tell what your long-term goals are? Or would they only see short-term comfort? Kevin believes this question alone explains the gap between those who move forward and those who stay stuck. Another reason this topic matters so much is because the middle class often carries silent pressure. Pressure to look successful, pressure to not fall behind, pressure to prove that they're doing okay. Kevin O'Leary says this pressure fuels many bad decisions. People spend money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people who aren't paying their bills. And here's where curiosity pulls you deeper. Why do so many people defend habits that clearly aren't working? Kevin says it's because changing habits forces you to admit the old ones were wrong, and that's emotionally hard. It's easier to say the system is broken than to admit your behavior needs adjusting. Let's bring this closer to real life. Imagine two co-workers sitting next to each other, same job, same salary, same hours. One goes home and unwinds by shopping online, ordering food, upgrading subscriptions. The other goes home and quietly tracks expenses, learns about investing and plans. After 1 year, they look the same. After 5 years, they live very different lives. Kevin says the difference is invisible in the beginning, which is why most people miss it. This is why Kevin O'Leary often repeats that success feels boring in the early stages. There's no applause for discipline, no compliments for restraint, no likes for saying no. But over time, boring decisions create exciting outcomes. If you're still with me, that matters. Most viewers click away once they feel challenged. Staying means you're curious. Curiosity is the first signal that change is possible. Kevin believes curiosity opens the door that motivation can't. Before we move deeper into the habits themselves, here's something important to understand. This conversation is not about shame. It's not about blaming the middle class. It's about awareness. Kevin O'Leary doesn't criticize people for wanting comfort. He criticizes the belief that comfort equals progress. As you listen to the rest of this video, you might notice moments where you feel defensive. That's normal. Kevin says defensiveness is often a sign that a habit has been touched. Instead of pushing it away, sit with it. That's where growth starts. And one more thing before we continue. None of these habits mean you're failing. They mean you're human. The difference between staying stuck and moving forward is not intelligence, luck, or background. It's willingness. Willingness to pause, willingness to question, willingness to change direction even when it feels uncomfortable. Let's go deeper now, because this is where most people start to recognize themselves. Kevin O'Leary says the middle class doesn't lose money in dramatic ways. They lose it in upgrades, small ones at first, ones that feel earned, ones that feel justified. Lifestyle inflation doesn't announce itself. It quietly slips into your life disguised as success. Think about the first time you upgraded something major. Maybe it was your first new car or your first apartment that felt adult. It probably felt amazing. You told yourself this was proof that things were going well. Kevin says that moment is important because it teaches your brain to associate spending with progress. And once that association is formed, it's hard to break. Here's a real pattern Kevin O'Leary talks about often. Income goes up, and instead of asking how to protect the increase, they immediately adjust their lifestyle to match it. The raise disappears before it ever has a chance to work for them. Over time, every dollar earned is already assigned to something else. There's no room for growth, no room for mistakes, no room for opportunity. Now, let's slow down and add some reality. Most people don't inflate their lifestyle because they want to show off. They do it because they're tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of feeling behind. Tired of telling themselves someday. Kevin understands this, but he also says impatience is incredibly expensive. Imagine someone who gets a promotion after years of hard work. They feel relief. They feel like they can finally breathe. So they move into a nicer place. They finance a better car. They upgrade their routines. 6 months later, the relief is gone. The payments are permanent. The pressure is back. Only now the stakes are higher. Kevin calls this the upgrade trap. Here's a curiosity loop that keeps people watching. Why do so many high-income households live paycheck to paycheck? Kevin says the answer is simple. Their lifestyle grew faster than their discipline. Income alone doesn't create margin. Control does. Lifestyle inflation also steals something most people don't notice right away: flexibility. When your expenses are high, your options are low. You can't take risks. You can't say no. You can't slow down. Kevin says freedom comes from low fixed costs, not high income. Now, let's connect this directly to debt because the two are inseparable. Lifestyle inflation almost always leads to borrowing. Debt becomes the bridge between desire and reality, and once that bridge is built, it's hard to stop crossing it. Kevin O'Leary is very blunt about this. He says consumer debt is one of the biggest reasons the middle class stays stuck, not because debt is evil, but because it's misused. Debt used to create income can be powerful. Debt used to fund consumption is a trap. Think about how normal debt feels now. Car payments, credit cards, monthly installments for things that used to be paid for up front. Kevin says normalization is the most dangerous part. When everyone around you is in debt, it stops feeling like a warning sign. Here's a story Kevin once shared that hits hard. He talked about someone who upgraded their car every few years. Each payment felt manageable, but over a decade, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on vehicles that lost value. That same money invested consistently could have changed their entire future. The difference wasn't income, it was choices. Debt also creates mental weight. Even when you're not thinking about it, it's there. Payments waiting, balances growing, interest compounding against you. Kevin says this mental pressure keeps people stuck in survival mode. When you're focused on getting through the month, it's hard to think long-term. Another curiosity point: why do so many people use credit for experiences they can't afford? Vacations, events, luxuries. Kevin says it's because experiences feel justified. They feel like memories, but interest doesn't care about memories. It only cares about time. And here's the hardest truth. Debt makes you loyal to your income. When you owe money, quitting feels impossible. Risk feels dangerous. Ownership feels unrealistic. Kevin says debt quietly trains you to protect your paycheck at all costs. If this is uncomfortable, that's a good sign.
It means the message is close to home. Kevin believes discomfort is the price of clarity. Now, pause for a moment. Ask yourself this: if you had no debt and low expenses, how differently would you live? How differently would you work? How differently would you think? Kevin says most people underestimate how powerful that question is. Lifestyle inflation and debt don't just affect money, they affect identity. People start defining themselves by what they own instead of what they control. Kevin says ownership of time is the real status symbol, not things. As we move forward, remember this: you don't have to undo everything at once. Awareness is the first crack in the pattern. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, change becomes possible. And now that you understand how spending and debt quietly shape your life,